Okay, all right. Joint study session of the. You try? It's kind of a cool sentence. Well, it's off now. Yeah. We're so good. We're going to try this again. It is June 2nd, 2021. This is a joint study session, City Council and Planning Commission. And City Clerk, may I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Miller.
Present.
Councilmember Ramos-Sonny. Absent. Councilmember Ortiz.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Parker.
Present.
And Mayor Holmes.
Present. Thank you very much. Please stand.
Just to
The Planning
announce,
Commission.
the planning commissioners are all present.
Great.
I am muted, but what's going on?
It's the speaker thing at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm muted.
You muted the little X. And I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Because you're not muting Zoom. Don't unmute on Zoom.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Okay, are we ready? Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Place your hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you, everyone. And public comment. City Clerk, do we have any public comment? No public comment. No public comment at this time. Study session items. This is a study session, Highway 111 corridor specific plan. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, Captain Snyder, Director of Community Development this afternoon. I want to thank the Council and Planning Commission for taking time out of busy schedules to join myself and the consultant team to have what we hope will be a robust and informative discussion about the Highway 111 corridor specific plan. I'm going to turn it over to the consultant team in just a minute, but I just want to remind council that this is a state grant funded project. We appreciate the Department of Housing and Community Development giving the city a $310,000 grant for this project. And this project is a little bit unique in the sense that many planning projects start with kind of the land uses in mind. This project started with more of the economics in mind. So we really want to ground this plan in an economic foundation to really make sure that over time, as the plan moves forward with implementation, following hopefully the council's support and adoption, that it's grounded in economic reality. It supports the economic goals and aspirations of the community, along with the land use and physical infrastructure goals. So we're really lucky to have a diverse team in the spirit of that economic foundation. Our lead consultant is BAE Urban Economics, and Lisa Vernon is our lead consultant. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Lisa to introduce her team, walk the council through a presentation. We are very mindful that the council has a hard stop at 4 o'clock, so our plan is to stop at 3:55 to give you a few minutes to transition to your next agenda item. And we're going to try to keep most of the conversation today hearing back from the commission and the council. So thank you.
Good afternoon, council members and members of the community and staff. My name is Lisa Barron. I'm Vice President out of BAE's Los Angeles office. And I am here today with our team, which includes our presentation team. BAE is an urban economics firm. We primarily work with municipalities on a variety of urban planning, real estate development, real estate advisory, and affordable housing projects. I'm here today with Sherry Oken-Rudnack, who is our principal for BAE, David Sargent, who is the founder of Sargent Town Planning. I know many of you are familiar with Sargent Town Planning, and they are our partner on this project. And Peter Vanderwall, although I'm not seeing him in the guests, who will co-present with me today as well. So if Peter is actually looking to share his screen, and we're wondering if he could be made a co-host or if his ability to share his screen could be
It'll actually be David. That's going to be.
Oh, David. Okay, terrific.
Yeah, so he needs to be able to share his screen. And I am here. Good to see you all again.
Guys, for 1 second, City Clerk, I just wanted for the record to note that Councilmember Abid has joined this session. Thank you, and thank you. Please go ahead, Mr. Sargent. Please go ahead. There we go.
Okay, terrific. So we're here today to provide City Council and the Planning Commission with an overview of the Highway 111 Corridor Specific Plan. As I mentioned before, BAE and Sargent Town Planning will be presenting today. Next slide. Okay, so our overview for today is that I'm going to introduce you to our project team, talk about the specific plan, our key deliverables for the specific plan, our project activities and schedule, our plan for community engagement, and then Peter is going to take over and talk about the specific plan's connection to the general plan. And then we're really hoping to spend half of our time with you today in discussion about your thoughts on where the specific plan can be meaningful for your community. Next slide. So we have a multidisciplinary team that is involved with this specific plan effort. BAE is the lead consultant. We're working very closely with Sargent Town Planning, given their expertise in urban design and planning and their knowledge of India, particularly your general plan. We have a retail economist on board, Greensfelder, real estate strategy, civil engineering, MSA consulting, which is out in Coachella, community outreach, urban SEMIAS, transportation, fair and peers, and environmental Rincon. Next slide. Thank you. So here's an overview of the specific plan. The Highway 111 Corridor Specific Plan is focusing on new housing and commercial development, creating a better sense of place as well as a sense of arrival into Indio, and establishing distinctive yet connected land use patterns and intensities along the corridor, all within the context of thoughtful design, market study, background research, and economic analysis, and meaningful community input. Why now? Why is this happening at this moment? Well, the reason why it's happening now is that Indio has secured a grant from the state of California in the form of an SB2 planning grant. And that grant has funded the specific plan work with an emphasis on housing, which we'll talk about on the next slide. And also, in order to implement the general plan, you will need tools such as zoning and design guidelines to implement the plan that you've put together as a city for where you envision the corridor going. So this slide is just an overview of the specific plan area. As you can see, it begins on the east at the old highway and ends on the west at right just past Jefferson. And it extends several blocks in some portions in each direction around the corridor and incorporates the Civic Center, Midtown, it's adjacent to downtown, and includes large swaths of land along the west side, as well as automotive uses and area over on the east side. Next slide. Okay, so our charge is to develop and deliver a specific plan that involves the city, its residents, and its business owners. We're going to talk more about some of our community outreach efforts that we've done today and what we plan on doing next. Implementing the general plan, revitalizing the corridor with a specific focus on residential, retail, and commercial, as well as an understanding of infrastructure and traffic, and facilitating the development of at least 500 units of housing. We know that the corridor has potential for way more than that, but the commitment of the SB2 planning grant is that at least a minimum of 500 units of housing would be planned for along the corridor. And really, at the end of the day, the city will be left with regulatory policies, strategies, and standards that have an emphasis on economic feasibility. So all along throughout our process, we are going to be doing economic testing and feasibility testing of the various concepts that are arising and coming up, being suggested, being thought about before they get implemented and added into the plan. And so our key deliverables to you will be community engagement, new zoning and land use and development standards, urban design guidelines, strategies and policies that encourage residential development, strategies and policies that recalibrate retail and refine commercial uses along the corridor, and also replacing the Central Highway 111 specific plan and the mixed use specific plan so that there's a more unified approach throughout the entire corridor versus a variety of plans that have to be navigated both by city staff and potential developers. And then lastly, one of our key deliverables would be to incorporate changes approved to the current plan for the marketplace so that that project can move forward smoothly. So a quick overview of our schedule and where we are in terms of project activities. So we've been doing an existing conditions analysis to date, taking a look at the market, the built form, urban planning standards, what exists in the corridor, reaching out to stakeholders to interview them, get their input about the corridor, what they see as opportunities and challenges, and really putting together a pretty strong existing conditions case and understanding, including infrastructure and what might be needed long-term if the corridor were to develop to the type of place that the general plan contemplates. And our next step is going to be developing and testing various concepts. And from that and the community input involved in that part of the process, as well as input from the city, then we would develop a corridor specific plan, which would be in the fall. And infrastructure planning, which has been going on all along in terms of initial existing conditions, would then be considered alongside that proposed plan. Environmental would take place next. And then from January to March would be a series of meetings, one joint meeting with planning and city council, and then individual meetings with each entity for final approval of the plan. So we're looking at March 2022 as a time to wrap up that plan. So community engagement is going to be on a parallel path to our project, and we're kicking it off with this meeting with you today, and to get your feedback and your ideas as we begin the process. As I've mentioned, we've been conducting stakeholder interviews already. We're talking to developers, business owners, community members, government, education, really getting a sense of their understanding of the corridor as it is today and where they see potential for the corridor in the future and what they experience in the real estate market around land and development as well. Our first community engagement event is going to be at the end of this month. It's going to be a discovery session where we meet with the community and understand what the community hopes for, envisions, sees, and experiences in the corridor today, and understanding where they envision or their hopes and their thoughts on what's needed for tomorrow. Then we'll go back to our working groups and come back to the community in September to take a look at some vision ideas that have evolved through all of our work, try to get a sense of where those ideas might need some adjustments. And then we'll come back again to the community in December to really confirm the final implementation and vision ideas that would be incorporated into a proposed plan. Then we would meet with planning and council for a joint workshop, incorporate their feedback at that point, and have final review and approval meetings with planning and council in January to March. So that's our overall schedule for community engagement. It's pretty robust. We're looking forward to getting to know your community and learning more about the corridor as people see it today and as people envision it for tomorrow. So I'm going to shift this presentation over to Peter, who's going to go over the general plan and what it says about the corridor, given that that really is the baseline of our work. Peter?
That's going to be David.
Oh, David, sorry.
All right, no problem. We're interchangeable to an increasing extent. Very nice to see you folks again. We're very glad to be back to help you think about this corridor. We've been thinking about this corridor for 5 or 6 years, from the very beginning of the work on the general plan and then through the work on the downtown specific plan. So speaking of the general plan, in many cases on a corridor like this, a general plan will have been made quite a long time ago. And so the corridor plan would be sort of a fresh look at a specific place. In this case, your general plan is so fresh and so robust and so recently understood by many of you that we're just going to propose that the key strategy, the guiding principles for the specific plan will be, we think, unless you tell us otherwise, the main ideas from the general plan. So we're going to go through those quickly for you. Restoring the downtown. The key strategies were to make the downtown once again the heart of the community, reinvent the 111 corridor as from a highway to more of a boulevard, since it's now the geographic center of your city. Establish human scale places that people like to come to. Expand commerce and both reinforce the commerce that is there, that has been changing, and then expand it. Strengthen the tourism and hospitality sectors. We think that there's a big opportunity to invite them into the remade center of your city. Revitalize and connect the neighborhoods. We think this corridor can be a very good thing for all the neighborhoods around it. And enhance community health and wellness by making more active, healthy lifestyles more natural and than just driving all the time. So the guiding principles that we're suggesting for this corridor would be, first of all, the goal number 1 for your general plan is a citywide urban structure. Clearly the 111 corridor and Monroe and Oasis are sort of the central piece of that network, and weaving those spaces together with the established neighborhoods is what this plan is really about. And as part of our work on the general plan, we've made these initial conceptual illustrations of how that might be done through a finer grained network of walkable, bikeable, beautiful streets that would connect this core of the corridor around the marketplace to your downtown as really the heart and soul of your community. Active places. Indio is a city with active and comfortable places that encourage social interaction. So some of the work we did envisioning the middle of your downtown and work that's already underway at the marketplace to make it much more of a place and a bit less of just an old mall. And there's many opportunities for making beautiful outdoor spaces that can be enjoyed through the long evenings and many of the days in the cooler months of the year when your outdoor environment is just fantastic. A human scaled public realm. Right now, the corridor is an old highway, obviously. And starting with the downtown and spreading into the marketplace redo and then spreading along the corridor, we've already looked at in your general plan work a lot of strategies for making places that people just want to be because they're nice places, in addition to populating them with useful businesses and housing that meets your community's needs. High quality building design is the next value that is our next goal. And actually, it is a high quality, beautiful, walkable, habitable public realm that will invite development that faces those spaces with beautiful buildings like these ones here, which were used a lot during the general plan update. Now, certainly housing in the corridor can be bigger or smaller than these, but we think these exemplify the kinds of development you can attract to this area. And Lisa's going to help us figure out the market factors that will play into doing that. Connected places, so that rather than just a string of projects along an old highway, these will grow into centers and neighborhoods that are connected to one another by walking and biking, as well as by transit and of course cars. And making places that people want to move around in public. That's what makes businesses more successful, by getting people to come here more often and spend more time. Enhance existing neighborhoods. So this is a great opportunity to do what we sometimes refer to as turning a rip into a zipper. So right now, the old highway is sort of a break in the city, which is, historically it was how one got from Los Angeles to Arizona. And there's the opportunity with properties that are underperforming and remaining vacant parcels to fill that in with very useful commercial uses, new housing of all kinds, and essentially connect and infill this gap to make it the center of your city. Then centers in particular, when we say centers, we mean community activity centers, places of commercial activity, key community gathering places and nodes along the corridor that can include recreation, commerce, employment, and cultural activities. And again, it's just about making human scale places that invite people to stick around. New neighborhoods will certainly less than most of this old highway corridor will be commercial. Most of it in one form and another will be housing. And as Lisa mentioned, the 500 units identified in the grant is just a tiny down payment on the potential for housing within this corridor, which is probably on the order of 10 or 15 or 20 times that much over time. And there's the opportunity to provide housing types that are currently not present or not plentiful in Indio, and meet a huge proportion of your housing needs as identified through the RENA allocation in your housing element within the corridor. Resort uses have historically been sort of out on the edges of town, but we think that as with your City of Festivals identity and some of the very amazing properties along this corridor, including of course the historic Date property and the Jackalope Ranch and the fairgrounds and other properties, to establish a fairly festive visitor serving a destination attraction character in some key nodes along the corridor, so that it's much more than just a place for daily commerce for local residents. there's certainly big opportunities for workplace and employment. The Justice Center is, as soon as we first saw the Justice Center drawings and saw it going up, we were impressed with the quality that the county has committed themselves to there, and it just keeps getting better. So we think that, plus the existing hospital, certainly the marketplace, and downtown you've got the Loma Linda Health facility and the college. So there's just a lot of hubs here that are around which more employment can be nucleated. And as this becomes an attractive place to live and shop and work, we see every reason that more businesses would choose this as their address in central India. The arts is, I mean, the city of festivals the city of festivals in the downtown is really centered in many ways on the arts. And we think that can expand and be amplified very much within this corridor, starting with the fairgrounds and the Shield State property and Jackalope property. We've had the opportunity to chat with the owners. There's a lot of big plans for properties here that can really express the arts and culture of India in exceptionally unique ways. And then infrastructure is the last piece. And we've made lots of illustrations that you've seen over the last few years of how your existing street infrastructure can become really the central living rooms and gathering places of your town. And so the infrastructure can be expanded to much more than moving cars, and can make spaces that attract investment, that attract housing, that attract businesses, and that attract people. The place types that the general plan has defined along the corridor include the downtown, first and foremost, the midtown, which is the name that we came up with for the area around the marketplace and just adjacent to downtown, and connectable to downtown by local streets, as well as the highway, as well as the let's call it the former highway. And then mixed use neighborhoods along the west corridor, including commercial centers at key nodes where the market and the community support them. And then connected neighborhoods, which would be the transitions between the more intense mixed use activity of the corridor itself and the existing stable neighborhoods, and providing pedestrian and bicycle, and in a few cases, vehicular connections through, so that all the folks that live in these neighborhoods can just easily come in to enjoy the new amenities and the new environment of the corridor. And the place types that have been defined in the general plan include mixed use neighborhood, which were those ones along the west stretch of the corridor that we just looked at. I'm not going to go through these, but basically it's neighborhoods with higher intensity housing and some amount of commercial activity to support the neighborhoods. Connected neighborhoods would be those mixed housing type neighborhoods that would connect the corridor itself back to the existing stable neighborhoods. Centers would first and foremost along the corridor, the biggest in acreage would be the midtown area, and there could be some other centers at key locations, key nodes along the corridor. And then of course the downtown is your center of centers, which has been defined in quite a bit of detail in the downtown specific plan. And so the last thing we'll leave you with is that, you know, corridors are not corridors historically have been like a strip of one thing. It's been, you know, stores and gas stations, you know, tire shop, etc. But this corridor has every opportunity, and the general plan envisions that it will mature into a sequence of centers. We sometimes think of it as like a string of pearls. So it's a series of places, each has its own individual character, identity, mix of uses, surrounding neighborhoods and reason for being there, and perhaps even image, and they're connected by the street itself. So we would like very much to hear your thoughts on this little bit of information we've shared and what you think about the opportunities for housing. What ideas do you have about how development along the highway, along the roadway should look? Ideas about how you want the highway itself to look? Who do you think the corridor will serve? What kinds of households and household types do you see living along the corridor? And anything else you think that we should be thinking about? So we can go through these one at a time, or you can just jump in.
Thank you, David, and thank you, the rest of the team. These questions, as always, we give you prompting questions to start the dialogue, but these are not the only questions or ideas.
Right.
If you and the commission, the council and commission want to throw out other ideas, this is just to get the proverbial mental juices flowing. So these questions are starting point, but we would love to hear from the council and the commission at this time. One thing I would say is the commission and the council did a lot of heavy lifting for you work on the general plan, the downtown specific plan. So a lot of the ideas are already there. So what we really like to hear is, what do you think and what do you want?
We're not trying to lead the witness. We want to hear what you think is most important for us to know at this point.
Thank you. And I'm going to open it up to the team, my fellow council members and planning commission who would like to speak first. I know there's people out there with plenty of opinions and thoughts and ideas. Come on.
Let our planners go first.
Let the planning commission go first.
All right, well, if no one will step up, I will. You know me, I'm shy.
We do.
So first of all, thank you. Good to see you again. Few of you from the last couple of plans that have come forward. I think, we've had quite a few conversations about, housing and, development in the corridor and downtown. So I think for me, when I keep hearing about this and seeing this, I think that the fact that we need a variety of housing. So for example, we have tons of single family residents, right, throughout the city. But I think maybe some senior communities, more like a senior living, whether it's apartments or condos or townhouses, young professional housing, smaller, 1 bedroom, maybe even like, lofts that are around like the courtyard, the courthouse and the downtown area. Again, it's that variety. And I do also think the work live, right, the walkability is very important. And I think it needs to be unique and different to Indio. So it shouldn't be something that you can easily find in one of our neighboring cities. It should be different. I also think that somehow we need to slow down our traffic a little bit on Highway 111. La Quinta, who has done a great job with their commercial, but you zoom through their Highway 111 corridor, right? So I think something that would slow it down. So every time we have our conversations, those are the things that continue to come, to my mind, immediately. So those are my first couple of thoughts.
Thank you. And we find that there's a great deal of correlation between the types of housing that young professionals are looking for and the kinds of housing that seniors would be looking for. And it focuses on maybe less square footage and higher levels of amenity within a short distance around it. And not exclusively that, but perfect.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez, please.
Yes, thank you. My question, again, thank you for your presentation. My question is more directly towards the community engagement. That's very important, being a lifelong resident of Indio. I just want to understand, what is the current outreach and plan to kind of get the community involved? And what's your strategy on that? And also, the organization is doing the community planning or the community outreach. Are they also local? I think that was one of my other questions.
So the community outreach firm is a Los Angeles area firm. They do have bilingual capacity for Spanish and English. And we are planning on reaching out to local organizations as a part of our outreach efforts, and having dual language community outreach sessions. We're going to be working with the city to follow a similar model to some of their other previous outreach, which involved a Spanish-English postcard that was sent out, and advertisements and outreach on various channels as well as outreach to community organizations. And because we actually haven't, we're about a month away from the first outreach session, we are absolutely open to any suggestions or ideas or connections that you would like to provide to us for outreach.
Okay, and I would work with Kevin on that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
If I could just add, we will be setting up postcards in the next 10 days or so that Lisa referenced. One of the things that's going to be unique for us, I say unique because this is coming out of COVID, is that we hope that perhaps in September and December, the meetings that we talk about with the community, we actually can do those in person if we're able to, and actually have face-to-face conversations in the corridor with folks. We'll invite them to different locations in the corridor. So it's not just virtual, that we can actually interact with folks and have some good conversations.
I think if I can just jump in, I think that would be terrific. And I think maybe a combination of virtual, online, there's always a core group of people that attend these. And really, we have a huge city, and the beauty of the city is its diversity, and to be able to get those folks in and connecting with Commissioner Lopez and all the group that she is familiar with, to be able to engage them, I think would be super important.
We've had amazing experience with virtual and hybrid over the last 15 months. We've gotten hundreds of participants rather than dozens.
Yeah, we think that that's definitely part of the way to go. And we also do plan on doing an initial survey leading into some of the community outreach. But we welcome any suggestions or ideas about how to have a more successful community outreach, and any ways in which, any methods that you recommend and any organizations that you recommend. We welcome that information.
And we have been engaging key stakeholders for the past few weeks as well. So we've begun interviews with stakeholders, property owners along the corridor.
And that continues.
Yep.
Good to know. Thank you.
Reaching out to the association. So today I met with what I thought was going to be one person from Shadow Hills, Sun City Shadow Hills, because I'm doing a presentation up there in a few weeks, and 6 people showed up because they want things in Indio. They feel like Indio's poised. Indio's the place. I want to get out. I want to go someplace. And I live up in Four Seasons, Terralago, and I've got a huge group of people up there. They're like, okay, what's happening? Tell us what's going on. So we have this energy here, people that want to do things in Indio. We just need to capture that at every level. Any of my council members have any comments, please? Glenn, Oscar?
Madam Mayor, if I could, I'm more than happy to go. Thank you for your presentation. Very informative. Like Jackie's right, we do need to do a lot of outreach, but with our new mall going in, the upgrades to it, also us wanting to bring people into the downtown area, you're going to have to make sure the housing in that is more focused further down, so that those people that are living in those areas aren't shopping in La Quinta, because it's simpler and easier for them. So we need to make sure that what we're doing is it brings people into the heart. So we have it. So it needs to be corridored up in the areas that are little enclaves of different areas. We have always had kind of like around Indio High School, we've had housing. There's good opportunities there, because you're going to have enough park. I don't care what anybody says, unless you have availability for those students to walk across the street to those schools, their parents are going to drive them. And unless you have adequate parking and adequate roads, traffic, you're going to bottleneck all those businesses that are in there, and people are not going to want to invest going into Indio if it's going to be a heartache. It's like some of the auto dealerships you have in Cathedral City that are slowly starting to lose leeway to ours on I-10. It's because it's easier to get into I-10 and the varieties. So we've got to make sure that we're making smart decisions to bring people into the heart of the city, at the same time making sure that it doesn't bottleneck early in where people just don't want to go there. So housing is very important, but at the same time, the locations of the housing to make sure that it's viable to utilize. And then secondly, on some of the businesses where we want to see, we've talked about hotels, we've talked about restaurants, things that Indio are missing. We have a great opportunity at the mall, but we also have a great opportunity with the new owner, Jackalope Ranch. What is he seeing? He's talking about a boutique hotel there. what does that look like and how can we function around that to be able to bring in more businesses? Because a lot of those areas have been gated for many times. There's no problem with housing in the back of them, but we need to make sure that along the frontage is businesses that will attract people in there, but as also businesses that those residents can utilize so they're not shopping in other cities. So good plan to start with, but it's going to be location. It's just like any kind of housing or any kind of business, location, location, location. What do we do to bring people into the city to make sure that they shop in our city at the same time? But very, very nice to see what you got going on with the mall and some other areas. We should be able to meet the housing criteria very easily. But as Jackie and also Gloria, we need the variety of houses that people are going to utilize. You know, we don't need any single family homes. Go ahead, sir.
And we think that there's a great opportunity to target the first 500 or maybe even 1,000 toward close to the downtown and the mall and the midtown areas, so that you're getting new built-in everyday customers who aren't necessarily needing parking spaces because they might just walk or bike over.
Yeah, and that'll be good because you have the detention center, you have the new College of the Desert going in, you have other plans there, but also you've got to have something coming in working on that first part of coming into the city of Indio, because if they don't see anything there, there's going to be no reason for them to come into the center of Indio.
Yeah, so we're also taking a look at the west end of Indio, and as you know, there are a lot of large vacant parcels there. There is a significant amount of developer interest in that end of the corridor, and that is also another area primed for residential development in particular, and neighborhood serving retail, as you've mentioned. So we are looking at that end of the corridor as well, and how a specific plan can encourage residential development there, in addition to intensifying as you get closer to downtown.
And we think that there's an opportunity to differentiate the visitor serving and commercial businesses so that the West End is complementary to, not competing head to head with your downtown.
Good. And the only other thing I would say is we need to make sure we have the infrastructure in place, including broadband, to be able to attract those businesses and to be able to utilize the housing in that there at the same time. So I will leave that to the rest of my fellow council members.
And through the pandemic, the possibilities of remote employment locations enabled by broadband has just mushroomed.
And so on that note, I have 3 council members and we have 10 minutes. And Councilmember Amit, I believe you wanted to speak earlier.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Can they put the presentation back up with the questions, because somebody took it off the Zoom? But I'll go ahead and start off where Councilmember Miller left off. I don't think anyone really heard what he said. We really do not want housing close to the West End. I want to be clear about that. If we do, they will shop in La Quinta. What we need is commercial on the West End to attract La Quinta residents. So be very clear about that. West End, no residential. Now, I want to know how we're going to implement in this plan the balance of residential, because we don't want a whole section of our Highway 111 taken up by residential and miss out on commercial opportunities. But I do agree that we need to have scattered residential. I don't know what the number is. It's not for me to decide. It's for the market to decide. But I want to make sure that we don't have a whole strip of section of 111 that is just residential. I encourage second story residential, backlot residential. I don't really want to drive down Highway 111 and see any asphalt. It's so unbecoming a strip of commercial to just drive by a strip of asphalt. So I think that we can come up with some beautiful communities. I would like to emphasize that the space of 111 between where Highway 99, which is Indio Boulevard, and 111 meet, to Ruby Doo and 111, which is just west of the fairgrounds. I would really like to see all remaining parcels in that area, minimum 2 stories. As we get closer to the downtown, I don't think we should have any more single stories like the Applebee's. I was strongly opposed to the Applebee's and the sea of asphalt, but I was outnumbered. We don't want that anymore. We want high density, incorporate commercial, incorporate residential, incorporate whatever you can, but leading to the downtown, it really needs to be a different feel. As far as housing types, I think we should omit single family dwellings, detached or attached. This really needs to encourage the different types of housing that we do not have in our city at this time. So that's why I wanted you to put the questions back up, because I wanted to make sure to make that point.
Can they be seen?
Yeah, it can be seen now. So question number 2, yes, buildings closer to the street with greenscapes, biking, walking paths. We can go up to 10 stories. We've already approved 10-story buildings, so don't be afraid of us. What do we want 111 to look at? Well, we want it to look like something welcoming to the pedestrian and the vehicle that's looking for some entertainment or commerce or going home. But we need to make sure that it's spread out throughout the 111 corridor. Can you move into the next screen so I can see questions 3 and 4? Who do we envision the corridor serving? Everyone. Indio has always been a seasonal community that embraces and swells during that season to double in size. We've always been that way since I was a little girl. We've always had little snowbirds come into our community, but they come into our community and they mix with us. They're part of us. They want to go eat breakfast at that little restaurant with us. They want to go shopping at that little boutique where we go. So we envision the corridor serving the whole population, not just the local residents, the tourists, the snowbirds, the festival goers. We really want it to appeal to everyone. What kind of households? I think I've already touched on that. We really need to have more diversified housing for those entry-level individuals and for seniors who are now seeking a different type of product rather than the old country club communities that they used to purchase 20 years ago. And given the passage of the downtown specific plan and general plan, is there anything that I would like the specific plan team to be thinking about? Just every picture that you've shown is a representation of what we want. The challenge becomes when it gets translated into a narrative, an ordinance, a written document. And then staff interprets that written document as X, Y, and Z. It's very hard to put what we see in the visual into a narrative. And I don't want us to get funneled into this, oh, your building has to be 25 feet back from here and you have to have this type of products. So you have to be careful in the narrative and really make more of a story with the pictures, because the pictures are really what we're looking for. We're not looking for regulatory, you have to have this and have to have that. We're tired of that. We want to be more fluid to allow for different evolutions, because it's not really up to us. We can only say what we want. It's not really up to the community. They can only say what they like to see. It really gets market driven. And we need to let the market be flexible enough to drive how we will evolve from this point forward. Thank you very much.
One of the simple ways we describe the intentions of all of our plans is to generate organized variety.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna call on Councilmember Ortiz. I'd like to just make one comment, and that is to concur with Councilmember Amin and Miller with respect to ensuring that we don't have that leakage, which is just a huge percentage going into La Quinta. We need to develop our corridor so that we draw people in. Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you. I do agree with a lot of what has been said so far. I do want to also add on that I would like to see indoor facilities for families so that we can make sure that the businesses can go year round and we don't slow down during those summer months. Indoor facilities and also shading structures. I agree with Commissioner Funds on the variety of housing. I think we do have to definitely acknowledge the housing crisis that our residents are seeing at the moment and take action to relieve some of that pressure on our residents, and work with affordable housing developers to provide not only affordable housing, but affordable businesses, affordable commercial facilities that our residents will be able to take advantage of so they can also be a part of this growth, and so we can grow responsibly and include them in that growth. Today, I was actually talking to a real estate developer, a real estate agent, and he has a long list of residents who cannot find housing in Indio, and he's having to leave in Coachella to the Salton Sea, and it's just unfortunate that we're seeing that. So I want to make sure that we are taking the proper steps to grow responsibly and include our current residents and our current local businesses in this growth for this corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of the things that I looked at have been said, but I want to mention a couple things about. It was mentioned earlier, hotels towards the eastern part of 111. I think it's a great idea, and some retail there to draw more people in Indio. I think we also need to capitalize on our artwork. We did have an art piece that was near Jefferson that's welcoming folks into Indio, but I think we need to play off that down in the center part of the area by the marketplace. I think having a central location, giving folks a destination to come to Indio to see. My children love to go to LA just to see the lights. I don't know, it's a museum somewhere down there, but it's just lights, just whiteboards where people want to take pictures. And I think if we have a place like that here and near our corridor where folks could just come just to see an art piece and capitalize on that. And I think that would tie into that 111 area or Monroe where it's our festival corridor. There's a great possibility, lots of land, lots of brick wall in that area where we can have some art pieces. And I think that's where we bring in our arts commission where they can have some things. Also, I think we need to capitalize on our detention center and our courthouse. We're second seat in Riverside County. We have folks coming in and out, traveling to our courthouse every single day. I think looking at some structures with some retail in the bottom and some housing up top, being open-minded with some of these housing structures, I think would be ideal for some of those areas. We have some empty lots down there now that are just sitting there. They've been dormant for years. And that's just a possibility waiting to happen. We have 90,000 people plus approximately here in India, but we're folks are jumping on the freeway going on west. So, we have to give folks places to spend their money. We talked about internet infrastructure. I think this is a possibility to work with Hagen and our 111 corridor, Oasis over to the College of the Desert, where we could do some kind of internet infrastructure or start looking at some of those studies where we could capitalize on our College of the Desert students as well as those structures that I mentioned earlier. There's going to be a lot of folks. 2023 spring, we're slated to have 8,000 students enroll in College of the Desert. So how could we make these arterial streets, town, Oasis, smaller, more attractive? Some housing where folks can walk to 111 and go to work, or walk downtown and go to work, or go to school across the street. I think that's going to be optimal in that connectability moving forward in the future. I think we talked outreach. I think we could engage with some of our College of the Desert students. Some of them specialize on these things and technology and internet and those things. So, and I think maintaining those relationships and contacts with our youth, because those are the ones we want to go off to college, and we want them to come back and work and live and play in our community. So establishing those relationships early, I think are going to be really good, because the folks, or should I say the young adults who engage with local government right now, chances are when they come back or they get out of college, they're going to come back and they're going to continue to engage. So I think College of the Desert, we have to really capitalize on that as well. And I think with the housing, high density, that's going to be our target. We're going to have to be open-minded. Duplexes, triplexes, those things that we really don't see too much in India, but I think they will be great for some of our families to come downtown near 111 moving forward. And I think we have to think out of the box. Sometimes we do things because it's always been done that way, or that's regular business. I think we need to be innovative moving forward, because we have a unique age demographic in our city. I think I like to see some of our seniors, and we have some senior housing. I like to see some of our seniors at the marketplace during the daytime where they can go grab a cup of coffee and hang out. And then I like to see some of our middle-aged folks downtown engaging in some entertainment. Just right now, talking about downtown, the Indio Food Park is a destination. Folks in Palm Springs are talking about coming to Indio to go to the food park. We need more destinations like that.
Thank you.
That'd be it.
I capture and I echo everything you said, particularly the mix of seniors. And when we have 2 senior housing, we need more. And imagine an environment that was mixed with college kids and seniors and the opportunity for people to mix instead of be isolated. And why do we need to limit two stories? Honestly, retail on the bottom, we need virtual offices. I have said that for quite a while, and people looking at the courthouse that need to spend 4 hours, 2 days, whatever, renting out office space, renting out bandwidth, renting a administrative that can pick up phone calls during a trial, so on and so forth. I think that floor of office space, of small office space, and some large meeting rooms would be outstanding. And then we can have apartments on the top. You know, we also have a law school. They need lofts, and they're looking to expand. So the opportunity here is great. I want to ask my colleagues something. Is this the right opportunity to look at retail uses? We talk about wellness. We talk about the trail. We talk about the trail off of Avenue 42 and the CB link. And I know in India we have 3 smoke shops, and I'm guessing there's going to be more coming up on Highway 111. Do we need to look at limiting some of the retail? I mean, I don't think we want a corridor where there's a smoke shop on every block. And I think we need to consider that, because we're saying one thing, we're talking about wellness and so on and so forth, but on the other hand, we're allowing, again, 3 smoke shops in one little city. And surely that will grow. So maybe to take a look at the different retail and or commercial uses and the propensity to have them in our environment, you know, maybe spread out a little more or so on and so forth, instead of just clumps of smoke shops or whatever the case may be. It's exciting. I mean, we have no place to go but up, and we've got the people, we have the opportunity, and I look forward to taking all the steps here, and it's 4 months, so I guess I better move right along. Thank
Can I
you.
just make one final comment?
Yes, ma'am.
It would be my vision for Monroe, from the freeway all the way to the festivals, to become Festival Row again like it used to be before Indio Police Department diverted all the traffic out of Indio. Back to 1988, that's where all the festival traffic came down, and they spent their money in our businesses, and it was a beautiful sight. I lived off of Monroe and I loved it. So I just wanted to give that piece of vision back to the team.
And I almost want to suggest to the city manager, you know, we need to revisit that in an effort to manage the traffic. All of the traffic went out of the city. None of it came into the city. And so people went to Indian Wells, got on a bus, and went straight to the council to the festival grounds. And so, my gosh, it's not just the mom and pops, it's the Stater Brothers on Madison, right? It's the CVS drugstore. Everybody looked. It was so exciting to see just a city inundated with people. There's got to be a middle road. There's got to be something between log jam and let's just ship everybody out of our city, put them on buses so that they don't get to see or participate in anything downtown. It's a work in progress. I appreciate everything everybody has been doing up until this point. To our consultants, thank you. You have put a tremendous amount of thought into this, and it's going to be evolving, and I appreciate that we have this amazing team. These folks are top notch. Thank you very, very much. And with that, it is a couple of minutes after 4, and we need to move on. I look forward to our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planning Commission. Appreciate it. We are shutting down. Yes, ma'am.
You can open closed session for the same.
Okay, so I'm not backing out of this.
No.
Okay.
So open the closed session with this link, and then you'll shut it down, and you'll go.
Then we'll get it.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
So
ma'am. Yes?
Madam Mayor, if I can also ask the city clerk to call the meeting to order for the special closed session meeting as well, so that we can have both concurrently.
Okay, how do we do that?
Does she start or do I start or?
The clerk should start and call roll for the regular closed session and for the special closed session.
Okay, so I'll kick it off. It's 3 minutes after 4. This is, again, it is June 2nd, 2021. This is the closed session of the City Council, successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of Indio. City Clerk, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I will do roll call for both the special closed session roll call and the regular closed session for the City Council and successor agency. Councilmember Director Miller. Oh, okay. Councilmember Director Ramos Amit.
Present.
Councilmember Director Ortiz. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chair Harmon.
Present.
And Mayor Sharon Holmes.
Present. And this is for both sessions, the special meeting and the regular closed session, correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Okay, now is the time for public comment. Is there anyone in queue to speak?
There are no comments, Mayor.
All right, so item number 3, I will turn this over to our city attorney. Adjourn a closed session to consider.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, 82851 and 82867 Miles Avenue. City of Indio negotiator Brian H. Montgomery, city manager, negotiating party CV Brewing Company, DBA Coachella Valley Brewing Company, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. B, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, 82851 and 82867 Miles Avenue, City of Indio negotiator Brian Montgomery, negotiating parties Aguas Indio LLC, under negotiation, price in terms of payment. C, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, 81727 Highway 111. This is the successor agency to the redevelopment agency of the City of Indio. Negotiator Brian Montgomery, executive director, negotiating party Regency Theaters, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, 81727 Highway 111. This is successor agency of the redevelopment agency of the City of Indio. Negotiator Brian Montgomery, executive director, negotiating party ME Development Company LLC, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. E, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, 81727 Highway 111, successor agency of the redevelopment agency of the City of Indio. Negotiator Brian Montgomery, executive director, negotiating party Destiny Church, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. Item F, conference with real property negotiators, Government Code Section 54956.8, City of Indio property located on the northeast corner of Monroe Street and John Nobles Avenue for the APN numbers listed therein. City of Indio negotiator Brian Montgomery, city manager, negotiating party HCL Indio Marketplace LLC, under negotiation, price and terms of payment. G, conference of labor negotiator, Government Code Section 54957.6, city negotiator Brian Montgomery, city manager Rob Rockwell, assistant city manager, finance director Scott Trujillo, deputy city manager. Employee organizations, Indio Police Officers Association, Police Command Unit Association, Indio City Employees Association, Indio Water Authority Employees Association, Service Employees International Union. Item H, conference with legal counsel, initiation of litigation, Government Code Section 54956.9 D4, number of cases is 1. And then the last item, if you bear with me, that would be conference with legal counsel for existing litigation. And that would be for Comete Latino versus City of Indio, Riverside Court case number PSC 1904258, and that's the special closed session item. Thank you, Madam Mayor, I'm done.
Thank you very much. We'll now go move to closed session. City manager, with respect to your text, I need to escape for 5 minutes, anticipating that the first I said, so.
Okay, yeah.
Madam Mayor, you're still on recording here. you can go ahead and exit out of this and we'll go join into the closed session.